Okay, so then let me welcome you to this session of what we call mass customization in a distributed supply chain. My name is Konrad Volkmann. I'm program management lead for the manufacturing team in Copenhagen. We're responsible for the development of AX in the part planning, production, and we also have Sverre with us, who is responsible for the product configurator. Maybe you introduce yourself?
Yep. So my name is Sverre Thune. I've been working with the new product configurator for the last 5 and 6 years. So that's basically what we're going to do today to generate our demand for the planning.
Yep. And my name is Christian Rødt. I also work as a program manager under Konrad. I joined the AX team 1.5 years ago. Prior to that, I've been working with NAV for 10 plus years. And in this session, I'll be focusing on the planning, intercompany planning part of it.
So before we go into a small disclaimer that what we're showing today is AX 2012 R3, even if the functionality we're showing, most of it actually is also available in R2. So we just need to remind you that this is a pre-release and subject to change. So we're going to actually look at a small scenario today. So this scenario will actually take you through product configurator actually with the new functionality of attribute-based sales price. We're going to go through intercompany sales order and purchase order change through actually 3 companies that we have set up. We're using final assembly, in this case, using the Kanban strategy.
Excellent. Now we don't have any screens. You're welcome to come up here. We have screens. Interesting.
So we're just discussing if we should have some anecdotes ready.
Oh yeah, go again.
Oh, we got one.
Could you do the same on the other one? That would be perfect.
This one is booting. Yes, Konrad, take it away.
So then we're going to go through the intercompany planning details of that. And we're going to also explain the forecast reduction that has been also extended in AX 2012 R2. So for that, let me just explain you the scenario that we're talking about. So we have this end-to-end scenario that we set up. We have a main production in the US that actually produces some of the critical components that we need in this scenario. And then we have sales and finishing all over the world. I mean, that scenario is probably kind of something that most of you know, that you actually have activities that go on in more than one country. So this is why Contoso is actually set up in multiple legal entities. So the distributed speaker production in this case, like we have this critical component crossover that is produced in the US and some purchased speaker parts that we need for that. And these are going to be shipped to an end assembly. In this case, we actually have set up a company in Germany that actually does the end assembly. And it's going to use a Kanban principle for that. It could be anything. It could be production orders, could be batch orders as well. So we have cabinet materials that are actually purchased directly to that site. What we're looking at here is actually a configurable item. So we're using our product configurator to actually configure items to order. So when the sales order is taken, we actually select the customization for that item. So we have a couple of critical components here, and we also have a couple of typical items, which is the white and the rosewood, which are kind of runners that are sold many times. So we're also using the functionality that we actually can reuse actual existing configurations. Anything you wanted to add to that slide?
No, the thing that I can observe is that the color scheme has been slightly disturbed. So a couple of the sort of, what should I say, most often configured options were originally shown in a slightly yellow color. Okay. And they have disappeared. They are more orange now. If you look very closely, I can see that the black option and the white options are in a slightly more orange color. So I think that set me through to aviation school with that kind of color change. So that's basically the only thing, just to underline what you said about these most common configurations.
So let's look at it from the material flow perspective. So we have Susan, the sales order taker, who takes a sales order, and she sits in a company in France. It could be any Contosa showroom, or any showroom that actually takes orders. This sales order, where she's doing the order taking and the configuration of that, will create a final assembly request through intercompany on the German subsidiary. And the German subsidiary is actually fed from, or is purchasing cabinet and materials, speaker parts, directly to that subsidiary. It also purchases critical components production from the US. These critical components are not purchased to order, but they actually purchased on forecast. So we will actually show you how the forecast will actually behave in an intercompany scenario as well. So this kind of divider basically means the first part of it, the final assembly and the cabinets, this is all done to order. It's actually done to a specific customer-specific configuration, whereas the critical components production is going to be done to forecast. So with that, we're going to open a demo with actually the order taking, and Sverre is going to show us that to us, order taking and the configuration.
Yep. So let me switch over to AX. So as Susan, I'm now in my sales and marketing area page. And one of my favorite customers have called me up and asked for a customized speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my sales orders and then start on a new sales order. Now, this particular customer is Miriam. So we've done business previously, and therefore I have all her data in my system. So I'm fine with the basic settings for Miriam. So as we are talking about an intercompany scenario here, the first thing that I really want to do is to make sure that these things happen automatically and I don't have to do a lot of manual plumbing around making sure the intercompany orders are created. So I'm going to check this one and then make sure that my intercompany orders are created automatically. So with that setting in place, I can then get down to business and help Miriam with the item that she requested. So this is our very new speaker model that we've just released. It's a high-end speaker, and the standard quantity for these type of speakers are 2. The sound is so much better when you have both a right and a left channel, so that's why we recommend 2 of these. As you can see, there is no price set up as such, because at this point we don't really know the configuration that she wants, so it's a little bit hard to determine exactly what it's going to cost us. So let me go ahead and start the configuration. So my configure line option here will then open up my configure form. Now immediately you can see that there is a, what would you say, a base price here of 899.95 euros. So that's without selecting any of the options. So I can go ahead and select these options manually, and because I haven't made any selections yet, basically all options are available to me. I could also choose to rather go and select one of my templates for this particular case. If I were into black metal, I should probably have longer hair, but never mind that. I can see that the standard template here will give me a black cabinet finish with a metal front grille, some corner protection, and the suggested height is 14 inches. So the price will then be a little higher. I can also see that because of these selections, for instance, I'm no longer able to select these particular options. These are restrained through constraints in the actual product model. Maybe that's a little too expensive, and maybe Miriam is more of a softer person, so maybe she would like the white version instead. So changing that, of course, immediately the price is updated to reflect the new selections that have been made. And as you can see, the option of having corner protection has now disappeared. So that's just given here for information. So if I'm interested in explaining to Miriam how we arrived at this price, I can open up the price breakdown. We're using Excel to show this. And as you can see, the base price was $899, as we saw when we opened up the configuration. The all-white option is actually subtracting a little bit from the price. It's very cost-effective for us to produce these types, so therefore we subtract a little from the base price. But then we also have a little bit of an addition here that's reflecting the speaker height. So the actual price is here, and then how much they contribute in percentage. So this is for information, basically, only. So I'm saving that, and Susan seemed to be content with what we have suggested for her, or rather Miriam. So therefore, I'm going to close this one down. And then, as you can see, first of all, I'm getting an info log here, because behind the scenes, what we're doing is that we are changing company context. I'm in the sales company doing the sales order, but what I have to do is that I have to release this product variant also in my producing company. That happens behind the scene, and we're also releasing the corresponding bill of material and the corresponding route in that company. So this is for information only, nothing for me to do here. So when I look at the item, I can see I have on my line, I have a line item here. Basically, this is the same price breakdown as we just looked at. It's been associated with the order line, and then you can make the call, do I want to send this to the customer, or do I just want to keep it for reference purposes? So closing this down, now the final thing that I wanted to do here was to just refresh my screen, and then immediately you can see I now have the purchase order created in my own company that generates demand in my producing company. And if I wanted to take a look, for instance, it might be interesting to see, let's see, do we have the configuration dimension here? I don't think, there we are. So configuration 146. So let's look at the related sales order. So this, of course, then is placed in company, my producing company, and luckily it's the same configuration, so she will get the item that she asked for. So the demand has now been created, and we leave it up to our friends in the production unit to make sure that this is indeed delivered. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Conrad. Yep, a word from our sponsors. in addition to the price attribute-based sales prices that I just showed you, I wanted to take the opportunity to also promote a couple of other enhancements that we've done after we shipped R2. So we have introduced the concept of calculations in product configuration models. So that will allow you to manipulate at runtime with decimal numbers, a limitation we had earlier due to the sort of domains that the constraints could work with. We have added an editor, an expression editor, that will give you some IntelliSense-like help when you are writing constraints or calculations or conditions in your product model. The attribute-based sales prices, as we just discussed. So that will allow you to then have maybe customer-specific or customer group-specific, currency-specific, time-specific prices for your configurable products. And then finally, we've also added another so-called solver strategy, the engine that runs under the configurator to make sure that the configuration constraints are respected at all time, is a product called Microsoft Solver Foundation. And what we've done is that we've added basically added one new solver strategy that works very well when you have models with very small domains. If you have a lot of options where you only have maybe one or two values, it could be a Boolean domain, for instance. So those were the enhancements that we've done after we shipped R2. And now I think I'm done.
Maybe a small comment on those who are not familiar with the terms CO6 and CO7. This is basically referring to cumulative updates. Hello? Am I still online? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm not sure about the crowd.
Yeah. Hello.
It works?
Okay. So cumulative updates is usually something that actually accumulates all hot fixes that actually have been done over a period of time. It is also an opportunity for functional teams to place small enhancements, or sometimes even bigger enhancements, if they have no migration footprint. So basically, we can do only enhancements that don't have any requirement for migration, because obviously cumulative updates should not have migration scripts and migration requirements. So this is where you sometimes see functional enhancements and cumulative updates, and it really depends on the different functional teams how they actually work against their backlog to actually make small enhancements, small improvements happen between bigger releases. At the end of the day, everything is rolled up into the R3 release. So what we're showing here is obviously all true for R3. So let's look a little bit what just happened here. Basically, we generated a sales order in one company, and that sales order actually used the intercompany logic to create a purchase order, which automatically creates the parenting sales order on the other side in the delivering company. This is basically what intercompany functionality does. It does that since 2009, actually. It's not totally new. It has been, however, improved in the way it's actually triggered and supported. And we actually have a couple of new features in the demo. One was, of course, the configuration that actually supports intercompany. And we also will showcase the direct delivery part of that. So if we're looking at that, we're now looking at the production scenario that is related to this. That was 7?
7, yes.
Oh, this is the mouse. So I'm going to change company now first. This is still my sales order, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to change to the supplying company. Come to Germany. I'll just look at my sales order. And as you can tell, that's actually the sales order that we just created to the company. if I'm looking at my product and supply here, I'm looking at my multi-level explosion level, I can actually see that there is a need for an update here. And if I'm looking at my pegging tree, there's another thing that you might not have guessed, but with the creation of the sales order, I also triggered an event Kanban. So with the sales order in the German company that's trying to fulfill it, it also creates the Kanban automatically to fulfill that sales order and places it on the work cell to actually get it done. To show you the full intercompany pegging here, I would need to go and update the plan. So I'll just shortly run the update of the master scheduling. And hopefully that's not taking too long in that company. We don't have too many data either, so it's actually pretty quick. Sorry? Yeah, excuse me. So I've just updated the master schedule plan to actually see all my pegging from the sales order side. So I'm going back to the sales order. And now I hope that my multi-level pegging actually shows my full information, so I can actually see the Kanban and the required materials that actually flow into that sales order. I will now go and just basically fulfill that Kanban. For that, I'm using the Kanban process board. For some reason, this has to wake up a little bit, the services. So we can basically see the two different, we actually have two Kanbans here, and one shows the new configuration that we actually have just done. Looking at my picking list, I can see that I have all my components on hand. And this is basically because I'm actually purchasing the components based on forecast here. So I can go and complete the job right away. That was quick. So with that, I can basically go back to the sales order and go and deliver that sales order directly. So I'm going back to the sales order. So in the case of the event Kanban delivery, it actually delivers it directly to the sales order line and updates the sales order line that the receiving Kanban location is actually automatically adjusted. So all I have to do is go and create the packing slip to deliver. So I have the lines here with my configuration. And I just have to go and post. So that's basically as simple as that to execute an event Kanban. So what does it mean, an event Kanban in the first place? Where is that coming from? So event Kanban is something that actually can be configured in a way that you can directly deliver to a sales order or to a production order without actually running any additional interaction. It is created when the sales order line is created automatically. And for that, you have a specific configuration in the Kanban rules. And we only have one Kanban rule in this whole company because we only have one product right now. So the special part about that is, for an event Kanban, is that we have these event types. That basically says when a sales event can be automatic, batch, manual, or not active. And this event is applied to this warehouse. So basically, whenever you create a sales order on that warehouse for an item where you have an event Kanban rule that's set to automatic, it will automatically create you the job to fulfill that. And that can be a simple production flow as we have it here with just one activity, but it can also be a more complex one. It is actually kind of running on the same principles that you might know from production orders where we're using packed supply. The other part, of course, is that it's actually doing the automatic reservation. So the Kanban rule actually overrules all the reservation settings. When it chips in, it would directly reserve the Kanban to the sales order, and on receipt automatically transfer that reservation to the on-hand on the warehouse. The other part I want to just shortly explain here is the quantities, is that you can set on event Kanbans, you can basically set minimum quantities that basically makes, as I said, this are your box limits. So if you can, kind of biggest box that you can actually produce is 5 pieces, then you would set in 5. This is additional to the minimum and maximum order settings that you have in sales orders. So if you would have a sales order of 10, it would create 2 Kanbans to fulfill it. If it's of 12, it would be 3 Kanbans to fulfill, 2 full and 2 partial. So it is a one-to-end relationship, so you can have more than one Kanban related to a sales order or to any kind of event. The other thing I want to point to is the automatic planning quantity. We did not do a planning for that Kanban. We could just directly go in and make it effective, kind of produce that. That is an optional behavior, and it's basically governed by the automatic planning quantity. So the automatic planning quantity tells me if it's 1, then every job that comes is directly planned, kind of as like first in, first out, depending on its demand date. And you can set a limitation, say, I'm not going to automatically plan more than 30 jobs. So if more than 30 jobs would actually occur on this Kanban rule, it would not automatically plan more than that. It would just only load 30 jobs, and the rest would then be manual planning. And the manual planning would be done with the Kanban scheduling board, which we showed in the previous session as well. So I think that's basically what I wanted to show you around that. One side comment, I think I did not show that part. From the sales order perspective, it's actually a direct delivery. So if we go to the sales orders, again, the address that we actually have here. So you can see the delivery address is actually the delivery of the end customer that has been taken in the French subsidiary. So it transfers the address directly to the sales order of the subsidiary, so you can do a direct delivery or drop shipment, that as it is also called. Can you please walk up to the microphone if you have a question?
Presumably your production orders in the producing company are being reported as finished, so you can automatically deliver to your sales order in the selling company, right?
So your question is that you can do the same thing with Kanban also with a production order? Or was that the question, that you can use a production order that directly delivers to a sales order?
Yes.
Yes, of course you can. I mean, on the production order, it is not that automated. It is basically you have this functionality in the product and supply where you can create a production order directly to the sales order that is also doing the marking and the packing in between. So it's the same type of reservation you would do. This, however, is something you would need to do manually. You would not. This is not something that's triggered automatically. If you want to do that kind of direct tie. The normal thing, of course, would be, and now I mean, we're going way too far. I mean, how to kind of connect production orders to sales orders. I mean, the normal master scheduling would also pack them and would tell where to put them, and then you would have probably a pick list to put it up. But in this case, you wouldn't need to. With all the markings, it's the same functionality as in Kanban. Okay, so this is basically the build-to-order functionality. As we just said, I mean, it's kind of similar on production orders. The Kanban support is slightly more automatic than production orders. So the sales event Kanban for final assembly is created through the intercompany sales order right away. When you press that button, it's actually creating the Kanban. It's automatically planning the Kanban, so production could start right away and say, okay, this is what we need to do. It's automatically loaded on the schedule. You can set an automatic printing on the Kanban card, so you could actually set it up in the way that with the creation of the Kanban, the printer actually starts rattling, and at the shipment or at the packaging or assembly zone, you would actually get the card out of that with the sales order, with the product, with the BOM on it, and you can start producing. And the registration against the job done is simple and easy. If you have the card printed, you just scan it. So what we've just seen is that we basically have automatically created that Kanban and then processed the Kanban and processed the sales order. So with that, we're going to hand over to Christian. He's going to explain you how was it actually possible that we can so quickly produce, because it actually is only possible because we had the material on hand, which requires a forecast. And he's going to introduce you into the topic of forecast and forecast reduction.
Thank you, Conrad. So yeah, we're very lucky. Lucky might not be the right word, but we were clever enough to have created a forecast up front so that we had the on-hand material that we needed. With this release, the forecasting possibilities have been extended a bit. If you think back to AX 2009, a forecast was called a sales forecast. That changed in 2012. Now it's called a demand forecast. And that's a change. So the old word sales forecast could only be reduced by sales orders. The new demand forecast, you have a choice. You can reduce it only by sales orders, or you can take any transactions. This gives the possibility to move your forecast down from your selling goods down to subcomponents or even raw material. Because now you can actually have your forecast reduced by component needs for production. This means that you can put your forecast on a lower level. So instead of doing it on the highest level, you can bring it down a bit. Let's say you're producing hearing aids. They come in many different colors, many different shapes for the ear, but the electronic within it, which is the expensive part, is more or less the same no matter who the buyer is. So you really want to make your forecast on the electronics. Then you don't care if it's a darker tan or a lighter tan, or if basically it's a big ear or a small ear, a women's size or a man's size. The electronic is more or less the same. So you would like to put the forecast on the electronics. And that is now possible. So you will set it up, the forecast, on the component instead of on the finished good. And that will be reduced. That forecast will actually be reduced by the actual sales order fitting into that forecast. And I will show you how that works. So let's take an example here where we have item D4, the red one here. And I have a component, a critical component. Let's say it's my electronics for the hearing aid, M99. We have two other components. They are fast runners. We just keep enough of those in stock. We don't want to create an advanced forecast for that. So for the component, we create a forecast. It's shown in gray here for 260. Let's say we get a sales order for 100 of D4 on a later date. Now if I go in and run a plan, a master schedule, an MRP, it will tell me that I need the white arrow, the colors again have changed a bit from what we had originally. So now it's a white arrow in the beginning here. This is my supply order to fulfill the forecast. But you will notice that now the purple arrow going down is my remaining forecast. It was actually reduced by the sales order, by the production order for the 100 pieces. And this is because I had if you look in the corner, I had reduced forecast by all transaction, meaning that I want to reduce it by all transaction, both sales orders and transactions coming from production. It could also be from Kanbans, what have you. This means that in this case, my forecast will be reduced by the derived requirement, and it's picked against each other. And also, you can see that the forecast is reduced from 260 to 160 caused by the production order. So this field, reduced forecast by, that we have on the coverage group is enabling this scenario. I could still, if I want to only look at sale, I could put it to sales order, and it will work as it used to do in AX 2009. Yeah, and basically this means that I can have a sale, and it can actually reduce my forecast of a specific component. So now we have the scenario where all the different hearing aids, they're reducing the forecast of my electronics, and I can track it going forward. So let's jump back to the intercompany master planning. And here I basically want to show you, we have something inside of AX, it's coming up now. So now we are in DMF. This is our German assembly facility. So if we wind back, we had a French sales office. We had a German assembly facility. And in that facility, we need a component coming from the US manufacturing unit. So we have 3 different companies here. Sale in France, production in Germany, and in the US, we get the critical component. And right now, I'm in Germany, and I will go to my products. In here, I will take the component and show you that we actually have a forecast on that. You can see I have here the forecast that I was talking about for 260 pieces in here in April this year. By the way, now that I'm on the forecast, I want to make a short commercial for a session that we have tomorrow at 2 p.m. in this room. I'll be showing the R3 functionality called demand forecasting, which is all new in R3, where we go in and look at historical demand. Based on that and some advanced algorithms, we generate a forecast for you that you can view in Excel, you can modify it in Excel, and then you can bring it back into AX. But I will spend a full hour tomorrow here in this room at 2 p.m. So going back here, we have a forecast here. I will go and run my master planning in here. And again, we don't have that much data, so it shouldn't be an overnight job. That's good. I'm happy to see that. So now what we got in here, I can just filter on the M0099. We have some orders in here. So one of them, I think it is this one here. Let us take a look at the multi-level picking. You can see here that this is actually coming from my forecast of 200 160 pieces. But you can see here it's not for 260 pieces. It's only for 166. Let's see how that is, why that is. So we can see here that I have a demand forecast for 260. Then, because we have been using something, you can see here that I'm actually using for the Kanban 2 pieces here. But I already had 96 in inventory. If I add these numbers up, I will get the 166. So this was in the German company. Now let's jump to US. And here we go. It's a lot faster this way. I had to take a plane. It took 9 hours, and I'm still jet lagged. This is much better, by the way. So in here, if we again go and run master scheduling, I'm running master scheduling now because now I had a sales order created for the US to produce this. Or actually, it's an intercompany sales order. I'll show you that in a second when it's done here. So right now it's going in and it's fetching all the demands we had from Germany and any other places. So what I get here, if we look at the intercompany supply and demand first, you can see there here that I have a demand for the 166. You can also see the other orders that I had for later dates in here. And this intercompany actually generated planned orders for the exact same items. We can filter on that. I have quite a few in here. So these are the orders to fulfill my forecast versus on hand versus the sales orders. So this is the remaining that I need in US to produce. And I can see that if I go here. I can look at the multi-level packing. You can see the 166. That is due to my demand forecast in Germany. And if I take the second line down here and look at the multi-level packing, you can see this one has even more lines. And that's because I have my, if we take it from here, I have a forecast in France. If it was the hearing aid, it would be for a specific hearing aid. Then I have a intercompany planned demand taking me to Germany. And this again will take me to US where I need to produce the component needed. So you can see the entire flow from in here. And with that, let me jump back again. So that kind of finalized the intercompany in master planning. Now what I have been showing you here is actually that I have planned for the items one at a time in each company. I could also have set it up with a sequence that I say I want to plan first in France, then in Germany, and then in US with a one click or one batch. And it will fire off master scheduling in all the companies. And there's a little trick there. If you're using futures, meaning that if you have a delay on something, let's say you have a component you cannot deliver on time, that have to be going up all the levels, all the way up to the sales order to inform the salesperson that this order will be delayed. In order to do that with intercompany planning, you will have to do it multiple times, the planning. This sounds like a drag. It's not really, because it's only the first time you do a regenerative. The rest of them, well, it's just looking at the delta. But you have to run it multiple times depending on how many levels you have. There are some blocks on exactly how to set that up. So what we did here, we had the forecast line, the if we take it back, so the blue one here, sales, that's France. The purple, in the middle at least, the final assembly, that's in Germany. And the main production, which is also kind of bluish to me, is here in the US. So now we have the forecast line from Germany. By running master planning, it created my intercompany demand, and that again created my production order for the component that I needed. So this kind of concluded the full flow, and we have a few lessons learned here.
Yep, maybe I should speak to the first one. So in order to generate the demand, we use the product configurator to do a customized product for this particular customer. And we showed how that configured product was then released in all the involved companies, and making sure that the right configuration is assembled in the delivering site. I also spent a little time talking about how we build these sales prices and showed you how selection of different attribute values actually have an impact on the sales price, and you can see that immediately. And it can also be documented and associated with the sales order line. And then I spent a couple of minutes promoting a few of the new features that come in addition to the attribute-based sales prices for the product configurator.
Yeah, then we went through the build-to-order scenario, basically in this case using Kanban. We also talked about that you could, of course, also use production orders to do build-to-order scenarios in AX. The key piece of that is that we're really following through the order pegging and the order execution, and that even happens through the intercompany scenario. And we believe that this is one of the things that really is very important for manufacturing in the future, to have these capabilities of build to order with an agile setup in an agile way, to be able to load your resources in very short time, and to even configure to order scenarios respond in a very short time to that.
Yep, and in the end I showed you the enhancement that was done to forecasting, where you now don't just have a sales forecast, you have a demand forecast, meaning that it can be reduced by any transactions if you wanted to do that. And also we looked a little bit on the intercompany planning, that we basically can take it all the way through multiple companies. Here we showed 3, but there really is no limit to that. Of course, if you have like hundreds, it will be a very time-consuming thing to plan, but I think that's not a normal scenario, except if it's a hub and spoke, it's okay, because you only do 2 planning iterations, and then you're done, but you would normally not have a very long chain feeding each other. So for the intercompany, also, I think I didn't demo, but it's easy to set it up, and it will be a one-click to basically go through the entire intercompany planning.
Yeah, maybe we want to add to that one of the really big changes in 2012 from intercompany scheduling is the full visibility of planned orders throughout all companies. That actually, so visible demand is actually visible to the supplying company before the order is actually firmed. That is a key piece of the whole solution here. So with that, we will open it up for questions. So if you have any, please walk to the microphone.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First of all, if an item is manufactured in 2 different plants, the same item, and we receive a sales order, how do we determine, or how can we assign a specific plant to that sales order or that production order?
So basically, right now you will have a default vendor, and the vendor is specifying which company you get the product from. So in order to do that, you would have to choose another vendor for that planned order. and then it would get updated. So you'd have a vendor for each of the companies.
So it would be a manual process?
Yeah, only the default is fully automated, but it is something we're looking into because it would be very interesting if we could have this automated or at least semi-automated.
Great. And then one more question regarding your build to order. How are your due dates determined? Do you look at available capacity and material availability?
The due dates on the build to order, well, yes. Obviously, it depends on what kind of principle you use. If you enter the order with what we call CTP, capable to promise, it will actually come back and will create the delivery date according to your capability, according to material availability and resource availability. So but that only happens if you enter the order with the capable to promise part. Of course, if you don't do that, and if you run master scheduling afterwards, you still might get future states or action messages to be able to manually adjust that. We have a session this afternoon where we're actually talking a bit more about master scheduling and action messages and visualization of the dependencies, all these kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
With respect to selection of the vendor, oh, sorry. No, I didn't see you either, sorry. Oh, with respect to the selection of that vendor, can you leverage trade agreements with delivery times, et cetera, to make an alternate selection for the intercompany purchase order?
Yeah, the trade agreements are actually are taken into account when you create the intercompany relationship.
Okay.
However, what is happening right now, if you really do an intercompany delivery, we do not have a direct connection of the delivery once it actually posted when it's shipped on one side. It basically waits for the arrival on the other side. There's not like it's not like in cross-site delivery that you actually have a transfer or in transfer warehouse right now. It's yet again one of these scenarios we've been discussing a lot, but right now that's not covered.
Is your mic working now?
Yeah, it is. Thank you. First of all, great demonstrations. Appreciate that very much. Taking the demonstration of the Kanban order one step further, let's say that the configured speakers with those attributes came back in a return, stocked back, and went through quarantine, inspection, put back on the shelf. First of all, is it appropriate? And second of all, how would it be set up to then, when the next order came in and it happened to be the same match for those speakers that came back as a return, would it be set up so that possibly those return speakers would be fulfill the order rather than a Kanban order being created?
So basically, what we didn't show is that the configuration model allows you an option to say if you configure something that has exactly the same attributes that are already configured before, it would not create a new configuration but use the same. So conceptually, what we do in AX is that the configuration ID is really kind of the product version in that case. If you now have a return of a specific configuration, you would return that to the sales warehouse. Now the Kanban creation, depending on the setting on the Kanban rule, now would take this into account and say there's actually two options you have there. Either I don't care what I have, I always want to produce to order, so it will always create it. Or the other way around would be, no, if that's available, then don't create it because you already have it, or only create the missing quantity. So it would actually, in that case, reserve what is there, if it's a partial quantity, and create the Kanban for the rest of it.
Thank you.
I have a question. For the configuration tool, in the bill of materials, you set up the quantities, and then you say one as the quantity. On the sales order side, when you're going through the configuration, is there any way to select two pieces instead of just the one that's on the bill of materials? Or do you have to do that as a supplementary item?
So if I understood the question correctly, you want to know if you at configuration time can determine how many instances you want of a certain item in the bill of material. And yes, you can do that. All the different properties on the BOM lines can be set either to a fixed value that you determine in the model, so any configuration will yield the same result, or you can set the property to reflect an attribute value. So that means it becomes dynamic, and depending on the selection that you do at configuration time, you will then be able to set a different, for instance, a different quantity of that particular. It can be a direct link where you basically ask them to say, okay, how many wheels do you want for your car? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then add that as a number of bond lines. Or it can be through some constraint or calculation that you have included in your model. So you take one input, then manipulate the numbers, and then decide exactly what the quantity should be.
All right, thank you.
I'm just wondering if there's any more sessions on the configurator.
Can you go a bit closer to the microphone, please?
Is there any more sessions at Convergence that focus just on the configurator?
No, not at this Convergence, unfortunately. I'll be more than happy to go down to the expo and be at the AX manufacturing, shall we try that instead? And be there after lunch, and then anybody could come up, but no more sessions during Convergence.
Yeah. So with that, thank you for attending today. I hope we had a valuable use of your time. Have a nice conference, and meet us at the production booth at the AX stand for the rest of the conference. We try to be there as much as possible. When we're not in presentations or meeting, we will be there. So see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.